Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. That means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up here with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Portal targets. We'll talk about it in 15 minutes. Who else is LSU trying to lock in? Who could be next? We'll have a little discussion about that. Diego Pavia gets more eligibility, and everybody who went to junior college gets more eligibility. That's got to be a talking point for later on today. The Saints side, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Chat about that big get for the Saints from a local perspective here. So we'll talk about whether or not Clyde can kind of revitalize things in his NFL career with the black and gold. Chris Blair will be with us at 2:15 to talk a little bit of hoops and maybe a little Texas Bowl as well. So lots and lots to do. Let's get started the same way we get started each and every day. And that's with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
I have not attempted to sell you a tainted bill of goods here. I have not tried to sell you something that you don't need to buy. I have told you how I feel about bowl games really for the last year and a half. When LSU came off the field in the Texas Bowl, I was like, man, that was really stupid. John Trey Kirkland was playing quarterback. That was dumb. And the next year, LSU went over to Florida, and Purdue didn't have any of their players or their coaches, and they had Drew Brees over there, and that game was stupid. It was stupid. LSU beat them by 55, and it was completely non-competitive from the start. And at that point, I looked at these bowl games and went, how am I possibly supposed to care about this? And I really don't. I really don't care if LSU wins or loses the bowl game. That's like, I'm not trying to be like negative Nancy. I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm not trying to be a curmudgeon. I'm not even trying to be a hot take guy that's just trying to spit something out. Like, it just, I've watched it. I know that I've watched Florida State go out there in the bowl game last year and not even try. So how am I supposed to get completely invested? I'm not telling you that you shouldn't be invested. If you love LSU and when they kick it off, you're fired up to watch them play, go ahead. They're playing Dave Aranda, a little emotional tie there. Like, have at it. I just can't do it. And I'm not going to fake it for the purposes of the radio show. However, that said, I want to be very clear about that. I think there are some things to watch in this game that don't have anything to do with winning and losing. Like last year at this time, I was telling you, I don't really care if they beat Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Don't care. But Garrett Nussmeier is going to play in this game, and he's had a month to get prepared with Joe Sloan, who's going to be the offensive coordinator next year. I think that's an interesting storyline. And honestly, I'd rather Garrett Nussmeier throw for 360 and 4 touchdowns and lose than Garrett Nussmeier throw for $114, 2 picks, and win. And that's what I was interested in. It just so happens that last year, Garrett Nussmeier did play a good game. He led the drive down the field to win the game at the end, and all was well in the world. I thought that was great. And in this way, I am interested in a few aspects of the football program, specifically next year's team, that will be on display in this game. And I wrote about it at LouisianaSports.net, but I'll kind of go through it here on air. I think that Gio Paez and Paris Shand will probably play in this game. To this point, the only person that I've seen reported I'm not playing in this game is Will Campbell. As far as the guys who haven't gone in the transfer portal, we're talking NFL draft guys. We know at this point that Braden Swenson's going to play. I believe Miles Frazier's going to play. I think Gio Paez and Paris Shand are going to play in this game. I don't know that, but I'm working off of that assumption. Those guys deserve to play one more time. They have been selfless. They have moved position to position. They've done what they've been asked. They've been productive, playing at a spot they probably weren't planning on playing. And so if they want to go out there and fight, absolutely, go get it. That said, I want to watch Dominic McKinley and Ahmad Bro play, and I'll be watching those two guys and see how they look as they continue to progress at the end of their freshman seasons. The last time we saw those two guys was against Oklahoma. McKinley had a couple of sacks. Bro got back there for a tackle for loss, and we saw those guys kind of coming on as freshmen. So I'm excited to watch those two guys, and I'm hopeful that they're part of the next great LSU defensive line that hopefully starts next season. We know that Bo Davis is a heck of a coach. We know that that position on the field has had a ridiculous amount of coaching turnover and instability. And I'm excited to see those guys develop. So I'll be excited to watch Dominic McKinley and Ahmad Bro at defensive tackle for LSU in this game. If you flip sides of the line of scrimmage and I stick with tackle here, I'm excited to watch a pair of young tackles play. I said Will Campbell's not going to play. That probably means that Tyree Adams is going to be the left tackle. I don't think Emory Jones is going to play in this game. And so that could mean that you see Weston Davis at another tackle. Now, if you check the Zapruder tape of the video that was out there with LSU's practice this week, folks are surmising that Miles Frazier might play right tackle in this game. And that would take Weston Davis potentially off the field. If that's the case, maybe he does get a chance to play a little bit. I'm all for Miles Frazier getting to play at right tackle. That's a 3-year starter for LSU who may want to put that on tape for his NFL draft prospects. And if he wants to do that and play some tackle, I'm okay with that. You put in enough work playing in this game, that's cool. But I'd really like to see Weston Davis play because right now, while you look at the transfer portal, and LSU has not added a tackle. I believe they will, but they haven't to this point. Well, I want to watch Weston Davis and Tyree Adams go play because those could be your tackles next year. Again, I would guess LSU lands at least one, if not two, starting tackles out of the portal, but I'd like to see Adams and Weston Davis play. That would be the second thing I'm watching for in this game. The third one is not a young player. You look at McKinley, Bro, freshman. You look at Weston Davis and Tyree Adams, freshman. This is not a freshman. This is a guy who actually could enter the NFL draft, but I'd like to see him play in this game and show off the skills. That's Chris Hilton. You know the story by now, but I'll put some numbers to it. LSU threw the ball as well as anybody in the Southeastern Conference this year. However, they were 9th in the SEC with catches of 30-plus yards. They only did that 20 times on the season. That was 9th in the league. I think Chris Hilton helps. In the Oklahoma game, he had 2 touchdowns of 40-plus yards. That's the skill set that he brings. And I would like to see him healthy out there producing because he could be a key piece to next year's receiving corps. And I would love to see him do that. Now, I understand if he goes out there and makes 3, 50-plus yard touchdown catches, he may ride that momentum right to the NFL Combine and the draft because he's got that opportunity. But I'd like to see Chris Hilton out there in the bowl game making some vertical plays in the passing game. That's number 3 of what I'd like to see in this bowl game. Number 4 is safety. Safety, safety, safety. They have been awful at safety this year, and Brian Kelly has said it. We have talked about it. I think the guys are playing hard. I just don't think that they've gotten a lot of production out of that unit. And you look up and you realize that Sage Ryan's in the portal, and who knows what Major Burns does in this game. But really, to me, what's important, and look, Jordan Allen's in the portal, Kylan Jackson's in the portal. Deshaun Spears is probably going to play in this game is what I'm getting at. And I want to see Deshaun Spears play in this game because that's a guy we thought was going to get to the field pretty quickly and make an impact. And quite frankly, he did get to the field quickly. Nichols was week 2. He played 28 snaps in that game. South Carolina's the first SEC game. He played 44 snaps at South Carolina. At that point, I'm looking at a freshman who didn't start the first game, only played 1 defensive snap, and then he's making 44 snaps in South Carolina. That's a guy who's probably going to stick on the field. Well, he didn't. Because he played 37 snaps against UCLA, 37 snaps against South Alabama, and then never saw more than 13 the rest of the way. So he was basically taken out of the rotation. Well, I need to see him in the rotation for the Baylor game. I just do. Because the talent level there is big. That's something that you can go out to practice and you can see. I tell you all the time that we can't see a ton at practice, but we can see who's big, strong, and fast. And Deshaun Spears is big, strong, and fast. How well he knows the defense, how well he plays the football, how well he tackles. I don't know for sure any of those things, but I know he's big, strong, and fast. And in an inconsequential game like this, where it doesn't really matter if you make a big mistake, I would like to see Deshaun Spears out there at safety. That's the 4th thing I'm looking for in this Texas Bowl. The last one is at a spot where LSU doesn't have any options. It's a tight end. Like Mason Taylor, I don't think is playing in this game. Kamorian Pimpton's in the portal. We know that Mac Markway left a long time ago. All that's left is Trey Green. You can toss a walk-on in there to try to block a little bit. You can throw a different jersey number on Bo Bordelon, although he might play right guard. But really the only tight end that you've got available is Trey Green. Now, he's been working at receiver, and maybe they feel like at this point it's not worth spending a month putting his hand in the dirt and playing tight end when he's been working at receiver for a month and a half. But I would counter that. I would go, that's a guy who you profile as a tight end who's already 245, 250 pounds, who needs to learn to block and needs to be a force from the tight end position. I'm fine with them splitting him out a good bit, but he does need to show that he can come in line and put his hand on the ground and help in the running game. And I would like to see some of that in this game. I know that they're going to bring in some portal guys at tight end. They've got Bauer Sharp, and we know that J.D. LaFleur's coming in, and they may grab another tight end in the transfer portal. But Trey'Dez Green is a freak talent who's going to be a big piece of this program, we think, the next couple of years. And this is a chance for him to get in there. And if he whiffs a block, he whiffs a block. It's fine. I'd rather him do it against Baylor than do it against Clemson. And honestly, I'd like to see him make some catches a little bit more down the field. Do y'all realize that of his 7 grabs this year, the longest of the year was 12 yards? I know that 2 went for touchdowns, but he never really made a big play. And I'd like to see Trey'Dez Green make some big plays. I promise you. He's fast enough to get down the field. He can jump high enough to go get the football. And I want to see him play a little bit more. I'm fully on board with Mason Taylor playing every snap all year long. Great tight end. Most productive in the history of the school. Got it. So that doesn't afford a ton of time for Trey'Dez Green unless they're going to go to a 2 tight end set, which nobody runs a ton of this day and age. But now Mason Taylor's not going to play all the reps. He's going to play none of the reps in this game. So to me, I want to get Trey'Dez Green on the field in normal tight end circumstances and see how he's progressed this year. So none of that is dependent on winning and losing the game. None of that matters what the final score is. I just want to see some of these guys get out there and play. So to recap it, offensive tackle, what do Tyree Adams and potentially Weston Davis look like? Defensive tackle, what do Don McKinley and Ahmad Bro look like? Is Chris Hilton healthy? Can he make some big plays down the field? Then you look at Deshaun Spears at safety on the defense. Is he ready to step in to an important role there as at the end of his freshman year? And then, of course, Trey'Dez Green also at the end of his freshman year. He's your only tight end. Let's get him the football and see what he can do. Those are kind of what I'm looking for from LSU in the bowl game. If you're in the Bayou Ford chat right now and you'd like to hit us with your thoughts on what you'd like to see in the bowl game, we may get to some of those in our next segment. That's our opening drive presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. We still got plenty to do here on this as this Thursday. We're just getting started here, presented by Rouse's Markets. When we come back, I want to talk about a couple of guys at LSU may be targeting heavily in the portal that may be the next 2 guys into the class. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years, redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety can be a big issue in the bathroom. It can be a hazardous place, especially as folks age. If there's someone in your life that's aging, they want to stay home. However, you want to try to mitigate some of those potential hazardous situations. David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets are happy to help you with that. Non-slip floors, guardrails around slippery areas, walk-in tubs, showers with benches. All those things are things that One Bath and Closets can do all the time. They do them all the time, and they're happy to help you with it. So if that's not something you've thought of, oh, man, what if mom or dad falls? Hey, you can get David Duvall on the horn and see what they can do in that bathroom. You can get a free consultation. That doesn't cost you anything. They can tell you what you can do. And there are financing options available, 0% for 18 months if you qualify. You can check out the pictures of their great work. You can see the testimonials. You can get that free consultation at onebathandclosets.com, onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Brought to you by Rouse's Markets, who are the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Usually talk to Luke Johnson here. They've got practice, so he is tied up. But I do want to tell you about Rouse's. Look, Christmas is coming up. I know a lot of you got a lot of folks coming over to the house, or you may be going somewhere and want to bring some things. Rouse's is your stop for Christmas foods. Here's some great deals that they've got. Right now, you can get a Hormel Cure 81 spiral slice ham for just 97 cents a pound. You're saving over $2.50 a pound on that. They limit it to 1. They've got tropical golden pineapples, 2 for $3. You're saving about $4 when you buy 2 of them. And then fresh 93% lean ground beef, only $3.97 a pound. That's about half price. And a wild caught head-on 10 to 15 count Louisiana shrimp, just $5.99 a pound. You're saving $2 a pound there. So Merry Christmas from Rouse's Markets, official official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. That means I'm going to have to go to Rouse's like pretty quickly because the wife decided she wanted shrimp scampi on Christmas Eve. She's not a big like steak person, didn't want to do that. I was going to do a gumbo, but now I'm going to the North Shore while she's working to see some friends, and I don't have time to make a gumbo. So I was like, just whatever you want to cook after we get home from church, I'll make it. She comes back with shrimp scampi. Is that a reasonable request? I mean, it's easy to make. I guess, it's like a weird request.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, but I mean, not terrible.
We're talking about someone who enjoys like opening a can of beans and heating it up on the stove. Like she's just not a culinary. Her palate is not. What are we looking refined?
It's not as advanced as yours is.
Oh no, mine is far from advanced, but it's a little better than that. I'll be going by and getting those shrimp. What was the deal on that? Just 10 to 15 count Louisiana shrimps, $5.99 a pound, saving $2 a pound. We'll take that. Shout out Rouse's. All right, portal is up and running, as you well know, and LSU's done a very, very good job by all accounts of accumulating talent and filling some holes. Question is, what's next? What is next? And I've been doing some reading, doing some perusing, been on the Twitterverse. You got the folks that are breaking news left and right, and I'm like a dog chasing cars. Like, I'm not going to try to break news here, but if somebody puts on Twitter that LSU's getting a visit from X player, I'll go look up that player and see what I think about that player. So at this point, here are the three guys that it feels like, based on the Twitterverse, LSU is sincerely targeting to this point. Braylon Moore is one you already know. And I think it's important. Braylon Moore is a 2-year starter, started 23 games at Virginia Tech at center. I think bringing him into the middle of the offensive line is a big, big deal. I think that frees up DJ Chester to move. I think it gives you a veteran presence in the middle, and it makes you a better offensive line. I think Braylon Moore is guy number one on this list that LSU is looking at. A new name has emerged on the offensive line that I had not heard until yesterday. I'm going to read that on Twitter. Let me try this. I'm making no promises here. Fa'aliali Fa'amoi. I believe that's what we're looking at there. If that's wrong, I apologize, but gave it the best shot. He's Washington State's starting tackle, and he's been at right tackle for a couple of years now. 3-year starter at Wazoo, signed in the class of 2022, did not appear in a game. He made his college debut at Washington State in 2021 and redshirted that season. And then 2022, 2023, 2024, he has been a starting tackle for Washington State. He stands 6'5", 314 pounds. He is from American Samoa, and that's a guy who figures to be a potential starter on LSU's line at tackle if he were to come to Baton Rouge. I believe they're attempting to get him in for a visit, and we'll see if that happens. But again, I anticipate that LSU is going to sign at least 2 offensive linemen in this portal class. And I believe, based on what we look at with this offensive line group and kind of where things are headed, they probably want to sign 2 starters on that unit. I think they feel good about Tyree Adams. I think they feel pretty good about DJ Chester as an offensive lineman, just maybe not as a center. The jury is still out on what they think of Bo Bordelon, what they think of Paul Mabenga, what they think of, Weston Davis or Ori Williams. I don't know. They've brought in a lot of 4-star players and 5-star players, and you trust Brad Davis to develop those guys, but you need to bring in proven starters and let them compete. And if the young kids beat them out, great. But usually the old guys hold down those spots. Ideally, when you go to the transfer portal, you want to get a guy like Miles Frazier that's got 3 years of eligibility. You get a guy like Kyron Lacey that can give you a couple of years. That's not the case here with Fa'ali Fa'amo. He's got 1 year left, but I'll take 1 year because LSU is assembling this team that looks to be more complete from a roster perspective than last year's team. And you want to be able to compete. So you want to bring guys come on in and compete. And that's what LSU, I think, is trying to do on the offensive line with Braylon Moore and Fa'aliali Fa'amo. I promise you, if he comes to LSU, I will learn it. I've done a good job over the years of figuring out names once guys get to campus. Famously, you had Trey Leala'i Matafau, which I can do rolls right off the tongue now. This one I don't have yet, but I promise you, if he signs on the dotted line, the next show that I do, I will be able to nail that name. I'll go to the Washington State website. I'll find a pronunciation guide. I'll go to YouTube, hear him say it. I'll figure it out because I like getting names right. But if he transfers to like Penn State, I'm probably not going to learn it. That's just where we are on that, unless he becomes the starter. Because look, I can do Nico Uyam. And then I didn't do it. That's so disappointing. Nico Iamaleava I can nail, but he is a starting quarterback. This guy comes to LSU. We'll figure that one out. The other one that I may not know the name for pronunciation-wise is Sydir Mitchell. S-Y-D-I-R. Sydir. Sydir. I think I'm going to go with Sydir Mitchell. This is a guy that Bo Davis knows very well. 6'6", 320 pounds, 4-star when he signed with Texas a couple years ago on On3 and ESPN. Over 2 years at Texas, played in 8 games, made 7 tackles. But this is a guy from New Jersey, big physical frame, and a guy that Bo Davis has a relationship with. He's reported to come on a visit to Baton Rouge, and I'm all in for big defensive linemen. Just bring them in by the truckload. You just can't have enough. And I'm going on record of saying this, and I'm not backing off this at all. It's not a hot take, and I don't know anybody that could possibly disagree with it, but I feel like sometimes you need to reinforce things. LSU's next great team, no matter when that is, next year or 5 years from now or 10 years from now, next time LSU's got a great team, their defensive line will be really, really good. It'll be a strength. It'll be a force that other teams have to deal with. And while I don't think the defensive line this year was just a crippling weakness, I would not call it a strength. I think, and I said this in the last segment, Gio Paez, Paris Shand, those guys deserve a ton of credit. Ahmad Bro for stepping in immediately. Savion Jones and Braden Swinson for elevating their games. Gabe Relaford for showing up. Like, a lot of guys deserve a lot of credit for playing, probably a little bit above their capabilities, given talent level and experience. But it still wasn't a strength. And you still didn't feel awesome when Texas A&M was running that read option stuff and LSU couldn't get a push or get a stop. So the next great LSU team is going to have a great defensive line. And I'll take all the big dudes that Bo Davis can coach up as possible. That's just the way I feel about that. And so if they can get Sydir Mitchell on campus, I think that would be a great, great thing. So the 3 names to watch potentially over the next 24 hours, Braylon Moore, Fa'alili Fa'amoe, and Sydir Mitchell. I think those are potentially the next 3 guys for LSU. And at this point, you're kind of out there with Auburn and Miami. It's kind of the leaders in the transfer portal this year. Certainly Ole Miss is playing in those waters again. And so we'll see how this thing looks. It's been kind of a fast-moving and exciting week and a half for us covering it. I don't know how ridiculously hectic it is for the coaches trying to get ready for a game, trying to get a signing class inked, and then trying to go get transfer portal guys. But it's certainly been a lot of content for us. So if you want to read about it, you can at LouisianaSports.net, and we're certainly talking about it every day here on The Hunt Palmer Show. Just got a text from Luke Johnson. They have been released from practice, so we'll pause, we'll step aside. We'll come back with Luke and talk a little Saints on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. When you think Genesis, you should think luxury. When you think luxury, don't just immediately go, well, I can't pay for that. Just try. Just go check it out. Go see. You can see some pricing online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. You can also see every car that's on the lot, from the sedans all the way up to the SUVs. Every single car on the line was given the IIHA top safety pick. Some of them were top safety picks plus. Safety, very important to the folks at Genesis, and certainly very important to the folks here at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state. They're at Airline and Piku, very near Women's Hospital. Get on by and get behind the wheel here. I know a lot of folks are knocking off work and got a little free time over the next couple of weeks, so going to get out of the house. Head over to Genesis Baton Rouge. Just get behind the wheel of one. Let one of their brand ambassadors show you what they're about over at Genesis. It is truly a luxury brand and a fantastic partner of us here at the Hunt Palmer Show. So check them out online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
The weekend here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. About that time of the week where we chat with our guy Luke Johnson from the Advocate covering the New Orleans Saints. Luke, of course, hails from the great state of Wisconsin, where the Saints will be playing on Monday. The question, though, Luke, is are your family members and childhood friends aware that you're now fully a Southern wuss and cannot handle the weather that's coming on Monday with temps in the 20s and snow?
Don't tell anybody, man. Don't let them know that I'm going to be up there and wearing like 2 separate jackets with like 2 sweaters underneath and some long underwear just so I can sit in a warm press box for 3 hours. All right, don't let anybody know.
I won't tell a soul, but I'm sure
we got to still keep the myth alive that I'm this like hardened soul who grew up in Wisconsin.
Well, it's going to be another opportunity for a Saints quarterback. I want to start with Derek Carr first, though. Why are we hanging on to this hope that he could once again play this year? What's the point?
Well, I think the point is really kind of depending on your viewpoint, right? Like if you are Darren Rizzi, you want Derek Carr to play. You want to continue to pad your resume as much as you can to get this job, and he's, I think, pretty clearly their best quarterback and gives them the best chance to win. If you are the Saints organization, you know what you have in Derek Carr. And I think, we've said this on your show before, I think he's had a really good year. I think this new offense that they brought in really brought the best out of him. Obviously, like they're 5-5 in games he started. It's not like they had this great season with him in there, but I think he's playing about like the 12th best quarterback in the NFL, which is about what they're paying him. But like you know what he is, and you don't know what Rattler is, really. He had 3 starts with a really, really bad situation. Skill players were a mess. The offensive line was a mess, and he played like it. But if you get some of those guys back and you see what he can do with these last couple weeks of the season, you see if you got something there, and if you're going to kind of blow everything up, which is definitely a possibility. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to get a long look at him and see if he can be, a guy next year who you can see if he passes or fails, and figure out your quarterback situation after that. I think that's totally within the realm of possibility. So,
what was different with? Well, I want to go to Rattler. What was different with him in this game as opposed to the first 3 starts, other than the fact that the personnel was a mess those first 3 starts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me is the biggest thing, right? And I think he caught the Commanders at the right time. They were up 17-0. They were in control of the game. They didn't really send the kind of exotic looks they were sending at Jake Haener. But you put him in there with a real offensive line and MVS, and I think he's done a nice job of getting the ball at tight ends, and it looked a lot better. We'll see this week against a pretty good Packers defense that probably knows he's going to be the guy. They're going to game plan for him specifically, and we'll see if he can kind of duplicate that success. But I think that I think that the personnel was such a huge upgrade versus what he did those first 3 games against 3 pretty good defenses too. Denver, LA, Tampa, all defenses that kind of know how to take advantage of rookie quarterbacks. So he learned from that experience, got better players around him, and I think the results were a lot better.
Why do you think Jake Haener started that game?
Well, I mean, I think part of it was they wanted to see what he looked like, right? And let's be clear about it. He's a very good practice player. He's always been really impressive in training camp. You can see all the traits. It just has not translated to the game so far. And at some point he's going to run out of opportunities to show that he's the same player he is in practice in the games, right? Like it has to translate. And he really, really missed an opportunity. And obviously the Saints didn't help him, right? His 2 best plays in the game, one was taken back by a penalty, and the other one, MVS dropped what might have been a touchdown. It was a perfect ball on a deep crosser, and MVS had like one guy to beat really to the end zone. Very next play, he throws maybe the worst interception of his entire football life, right? It's just a terrible jump ball to Alvin Kamara. I get the idea of wanting to see what it looks like. And I think they made the absolute right call. Obviously hindsight, but when it didn't work for a half, like you pull him out of there and go to the other guy. If they didn't have a high potential rookie like they have in Spencer Rattler, maybe they let him go out there and try to figure it out in the second half. But like this is a staff that's trying to save its professional career, right? And I think they made a gutsy call to put Rattler in there, and I think it turned out to be the right one.
You mentioned Kamara, obviously dealing with injury. How important do you think 1,000 yards is to him, and how important do you think it is for the Saints to maybe give somebody else a look and help him out with a little bit of rest? He's been banged up pretty much all year.
Yeah, I don't know if 1,000 is really that important for Alvin Kamara. He is like he's a different cat. Like I don't think he's motivated by the same stuff as other people. I think if you inject him with some true serum, it'd be nice. I think really he does legitimately like playing football, right? I think he wants to be out there, and it would be nice for him to run for 1,000. But I don't think it's like this super important thing for him. And on the flip side, the other side of that question, it's really important for them to see what Kendre Miller can do as like a feature back type. He looked really, really good in the fourth quarter of that last game, and that was basically his only workload in that game. Some of that was because the first half went the way it did, and I think they only touched the ball they only had one drive in the third quarter of that game. But he was great in the fourth, and he's somebody who should get a longer look. I think it's interesting they went and signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week, even if it's not like Alvin Kamara insurance, because realistically there's already 3 other running backs on the 53-man roster, and now they have 2 on the practice squad. But I do think that he's a former first-round pick. He's a guy who's had success in the NFL. It's worth at least kicking the tires on him and seeing what he looks like. I don't know if I expect him to play this week, even if Alvin can't. But yeah, I'm intrigued by just taking a look at him, because he's still 26 years old, something like that, 25 or 27. He's still got some professional juice left if he's still the player he was a couple years ago.
What's your gut tell you on Kamara this weekend?
Gut tells me no go. Probably not supposed to say this, but he wasn't at practice today. They're going to be wrapping up in about 45 minutes here, and we'll get kind of a full update. Rizzy said after the game that it was it wasn't serious, but I had not seen him out there today. Just a little hesitant to say he'll be out there on Monday night against Green Bay.
Let's talk about some of the young guys on defense for a second. I want to talk about the 2 corners that are taking over now, and then Brian Brzee. I guess we can start with Brzee. What have you seen from him in kind of his sophomore year?
I think he still has a lot of room to grow. He's definitely got some really, really big potential as a pass rusher. He's big. He's athletic. He's got good pass rushing moves, good instincts as a pass rusher. And that's why he's right up there with the league leaders and defensive interior players when it comes to sacks and stuff like that. But as a run defender, he's really got to get better if he wants to be like a true 3-down player in the NFL. Being 6'5" really doesn't help him as an interior player. He gets kind of out leveraged a lot. So he's got to get better there. Otherwise, he's going to continue playing 40% of the snaps or whatever it is. But it's really hard to find guys who are going to get you 8, 9, 10 sacks from the interior, and he's on track to do that this year.
So let's talk about those 2 corners that are kind of taking over right now with Kool-Aid and Alontae Taylor. What have you seen from them?
It's kind of a mixed bag. I think Alontae's a better outside player than he is a slot player. I think he's in a better spot for him personally right now. But I think the transition between inside and outside, the Saints have kind of made it a point out of saying it's not a big deal. I think it's kind of messed with his technique. And he's playing pretty good out of the slot, and then he goes outside, and then he has a couple of rough games. But I think if they could just settle on what he is and where he's going to play, I think he has potential to be very, very good. Maybe not like all pro, but I think he could make a Pro Bowl. He's got the right mindset. He's got the right ability. He's got the right size. He's a really good player. I think the book is still out on Kool-Aid. He's a guy who, at Alabama, he was just kind of known for being like their man cover guy. And he didn't make a lot of plays on the ball there, but really stuck with receivers. And I think he's had kind of a hit and miss adjustment to the NFL so far. Obviously, he didn't play a lot early in the season because he was kind of down on the depth chart. But he's got all the traits in the world. I still think that at the end of the day, he's going to be a really good player. It's just that we just haven't seen it out of him yet.
All right, let's talk Packers here briefly. They are going to play a game on Monday night. Surprise, surprise, the Packers are a good football team again, just a great organization. What is the strength of this Packers team in your mind?
Well, unfortunately for the Saints, they are a really, really good running football team.
Yeah.
I remember when they signed Josh Jacobs this offseason. He was coming off a really down season with the Raiders, and had a couple family members up there who I'm in a group chat with. They're always asking me about Packers stuff, and they're kind of like, Josh Jacobs, I don't know. I'm like, he's going to run for like 1,500 yards in that offense. Like they're just Matt LaFleur is when it comes to designing stuff for the run game is just so special, and that's why his quarterbacks have been excellent in his time there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, like the year before LaFleur got there, had a really, really down year, and then LaFleur gets there, he wins back-to-back MVPs. And then they trade him away, and Jordan Love comes in, he plays really well, and it's because their run game is elite every year. The Saints' run defense has been better lately, but I really, really don't like their chances in a cold weather game against a team that knows how to and wants to run the football. Like I just feel like Josh Jacobs is going to have a huge game this weekend.
This will probably be a weekly question. I'll get you out of here on this one. Where do we think Darren Rizzi stands with the Saints higher ups right now?
I mean, I think he's just put himself squarely in the mix, right? It's even if he loses 2 out of the last 3 games and he's 500 in his tenure. I think he's clearly shown that he's capable of doing this. I know the reservations about hiring an interim coach. I know the history with that sort of thing. But I think some people who have been interim coaches before have gone on to have very good careers. Dan Campbell being one of them. I don't think I'd handicap it and say like he's got better than a 50% chance of the job, but I definitely think he's going to be seriously considered by the time this is all said and done, unless it just like completely bottoms out these last couple of weeks and they just get the doors blown off of them because they don't have their quarterback or whatever. He just has them playing really hard, and his 2 losses have been against 2 of the better teams in the NFL, and they've been by a combined 8 points. So I think he's got them going in the right direction, and he's got himself just very much in the mix here for this job.
Spotted cow, brat, and a couple pair of long underwear. You'll be all right, all right?
Yeah, and some cheese curds too. I'm gonna definitely dominate some cheese curds. They have brats in the press box at Green Bay. I'm very excited for that.
Have at it. Thanks, Luke.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
He's Luke Johnson, at by Luke Johnson on Twitter for all your Saints coverage. I had a brat up there at Lambeau Field when the Cubs, when LSU played up at Lambeau. It was quite good. I enjoyed it very much. Did not have a cheese curd, and I never saw a spotted cow. And quite frankly, I don't know if I would drink one if I saw it. They love them up there, though, in the upper Midwest. I just settle for standard cold domestic. Take a time out, come back. There's apparently no rules in college football. Another rule got lifted, and you can just kind of do whatever you want. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is that website. This is some of my favorite weeks of the year because whenever we get to cooking on the weeknights, just crank up some Christmas tunes right on the speakers that are in our kitchen. They're controlled right there by an app on my phone. Thanks to the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. If I like that song, we can turn it up right there on the app. If we don't, we can turn it right down, skip to the next one. Love that time of year, and it's all due to the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions that have helped us with that. So if you'd like a new sound system put into your house, they can do voice automated ones. They didn't do anything quite that fancy at the Palmer House, but they can do it at yours. Got to call Mitchell Fisher, and this is a cell phone number. It's one of my favorite things about endorsing AVSS is the fact that whenever I tell you to call them, I'm telling you to call the owner of the company. Mitchell's cell is 225-439-7920. Again, that's 225-439-7920. Whether it's your audio, like I'm talking about, whether it's your video, televisions, or whether it's your security system at your home, Audio Video Security Solutions can help you with all of that. Check them out on Instagram, AVSS_BR. Give them a follow. Check them out online. It's Audio Video Security Solutions at AVSSLA.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Always remind you to download that Rouse's app. I know the holidays can be a crazy time, man. I'd have time to go in and spend a lot of time at the grocery store, but you do need your groceries as you head places or folks come to your home. So if you don't have time to pop in the grocery store, just do your grocery shopping right there at the touch of a button on the Rouse's app, and your personal shopper will go do your shopping for you. You pull up right next to the front door. They put it in the back seat, slam the trunk, you're out of there. So can't be any easier. Rouse's is a fantastic partner of ours here at Guarantee Media, and we appreciate them all year long, especially here at the holidays. There's always a location near you. There's one right there near my home. They're Rouse's Burbank and Lee. If you're in South Louisiana, you can find a Rouse's location very near to you. Diego Pavia sued the NCAA. He did that because he's making money. And the second he leaves Vanderbilt, he's going to stop making money. Because Diego Pavia is not really going to cash a check in the NFL. He's a little guy, and his style of play is not really conducive to playing the Ravens. He runs the ball like 18 times a game, and he's like 6'0", 150. And he is actually good at Vanderbilt, and they're paying him NIL, and he wants to keep doing that. But unfortunately, as the rules stated 48 hours ago, he was out of eligibility. So Diego Pavia sues the NCAA. I had written multiple times, especially talking about LSU's season next year, like, I don't think he's going to win that suit. We've always had the rules that you had 5 years to play for. You had the COVID year tossed in there. We understand how medical red shirts go, but there had never been any sort of stipulation that made junior college irrelevant. And Pavia spent 2 years at junior college. And the NCAA reviewed it and today released the rule saying, yeah, junior college doesn't really count. You don't play for a 4-year university, then those years of eligibility you still have. So Pavia still got another year of eligibility. And it's just another instance here. And I'm not really suggesting right or wrong. I'm just telling you what we've seen happen. Like, there really aren't any rules. You can play wherever you want, whenever you want, however long you want, grant a waiver here or there. We got Cam Rising, who's got like 9 years of eligibility. It's just, if you're hurt, yeah, that one doesn't count. COVID, yeah, that one doesn't count. Junior college, that doesn't count. You played 4, then you played a bowl game, that doesn't count. Like, it's just, you could just do whatever you want. And that's kind of what we've legislated into college football. So Diego Pavia is going to be back for Vanderbilt. That's a big deal for Vanderbilt. And LSU goes to Nashville next year to play Vanderbilt. So that impacts how LSU feels. I'll tell you this, me personally, y'all know how I feel about rules changes and stuff. And just tell me how it affects LSU. Well, this one means when LSU goes and plays a road game, a pretty competent quarterback will be on the other side. And more often than not, Vanderbilt's quarterback, not competent. So for LSU, this is a little bit of a negative. I'm still not convinced, and I'll say this right now in December of 24, and you'll probably hear me sing this exact same song in August of 25 as we're gearing up for another football season. Like, I don't trust Vanderbilt to put together another 6-win football team. If they do, I'll be surprised, and I hope one of those 6 does not come against LSU. But I would have rathered, sitting here in LSU shorts, that Diego Pavia have to move on and Vanderbilt try to find a new quarterback because he's exciting, he's tough to defend, and he kept them in a lot of football games this year. So this does impact LSU a little bit. I'm not here to tell you whether that ruling is right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just here to tell you what it is. And I kind of wish they hadn't done it this year because I would rather LSU play a quarterback from Vanderbilt who is not Diego Pavia. I still think LSU will go to Nashville and be just fine next year, as most are. But we'll see if Clark Lee actually has this thing kind of pointed in the right direction. They've put some money into NIL. They've obviously renovated their entire stadium. That should be done for next football season. They kind of played in a construction site this year. But Diego Pavia will be back with the Vanderbilt Commodores. Beck, you are Vanderbilt's #1 fan in all of the 225.
Yep. Anchor down.
Your thoughts on Diego Pavia changing the rules of collegiate athletics to play quarterback at Vanderbilt?
Oh, it's great. I'm really glad that he's going to get to play again. Vanderbilt's going to be a really good team again next year.
Will I have them at 16th in the first power rankings?
You probably will because you're a hater. That's fine. Actually, maybe between them and Missouri. I don't know. We'll see.
Missouri?
You hate Missouri.
Coach Drink?
You hate Missouri.
I mean, I don't think I ever had him at 16.
No, but I'll
tell you who's making a strong push for 16.
Mississippi State?
No.
Auburn?
No.
I don't know.
Coach Pittman.
Oh, yeah, Arkansas.
They don't have any players,
They're
which is
losing
a
them.
significant issue. When you have no players to play football, it's really hard to play football, and all their players have left. So we'll see. I was hating on Arkansas earlier this year, saying they had no quarterback based on all the reports out of there, and they actually played pretty well. I hated on Vanderbilt pretty significantly, and they had a pretty good year. So maybe I'm just wrong about all this kind of stuff.
You
but
usually are, yeah.
Well, thank you. But I don't think Vanderbilt's going to be great next year, even with Diego Pavia, who's got more eligibility. So thought that impacted LSU. Thought we'd sneak it in here to the back end of hour number one. It's been a busy hour number one, and one that was kind of off script, if you will. Opened the show talking about 5 things to watch in the Texas Bowl. One, if you'd like to read that piece of what you should be watching for in the Texas Bowl, it's up at louisianasports.net. You can find all you want for free on louisianasports.net. Currently up on the homepage there at .net. We've got the story about the Saints signing Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I will lead off hour number 2 with. Zach Calzada is headed to Kentucky. He's now playing for a 3rd SEC team, speaking of no rules. Got that story up. Yesterday we had Brandon Drum, Oklahoma insider, up talking about Bauer Sharp and Nick Williams. I wrote Nick Williams in the headline too. It's Nick Anderson. I wonder why I wrote Nick. That's just wrong in the headline. That's a tough scene. We've also got auto locks that are up from yesterday, and that'll be up for today if you want to check that out a little bit later. And then Marler's got some Heisman favorites, which, by the way, do include Garrett Nussmeier at the 2nd slot. So lots and lots going on right now at louisianasports.net. If you missed any of the first hour of the Hunt Palmer Show, you can check that out at 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you find your sounds, you can find us. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Open up hour number 2, talking Saints and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Chris Blair with us in 20 minutes on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, fantastic to work with from an insurance perspective. You know this. You don't know when that issue is going to arise that could be a serious issue for your business, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a car accident, cyber breach. That's something you got to prepare for ahead of time. And if your approach to insurance as a business owner is, where's the cheapest premium, I'll sign there, that's one way to do it, but I might suggest looking at it another way. And the Highland Insurance Group does that, and they want to be a trusted partner with your business, like your attorney, like your CPA. You should trust your insurance broker. The Highland Insurance Group is an independent brokerage. They've got access to dozens of markets, and they can make sure that your business is in good hands, no matter what the line of insurance is. For your commercial and property insurance, you can hand your business over to the Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com. They're here in Baton Rouge at HighlandIG.com.